In the Hawaiian culture, taro cultivation served as a sustainable practice that provided the Hawaiian people with a constant food source. This was how the ancient Hawaiian people were sustainable. Today, Hawaii has become immersed in the technology of the 21st century. Many of the practices of the ancient Hawaiian people have been lost to the society of this day and age. 90% of our food sources are cultivated on mainland soil and then shipped into our ports.
Sustainability, especially here in Hawaii, where it's an island state, it's really important so you're not being so dependent on the mainland from the mainland shipping in food and other countries, importing everything. As if we were to do it all sustainably here, we could provide for ourselves in the off chance that there is something that happens with our shipping lines and we can't bring food in. So I think it's really important that we can be self-sustainable.
When we started to design our system, we started off very impractical because we were so clueless. But I'm glad we started off this way because it had allowed our imagination to take over. Then we started to look at real hydroponic systems, including on the field trips that we went to. When we looked at real hydroponic systems, we got ideas of how to build our own. And then from there, we used our first drawing to add on goals that we wanted. For example, for our system, we wanted to use less water. But from this, we learned to plan further and draft ahead of time.
Before Home Depot, we had an idea of the design we wanted to build and the materials we needed to build it, but after we visited Home Depot, we ended up changing our design. Since we didn't have a set design on how to build our hydroponic, we had to be able to collaborate within our group so that everybody knew what our design was and no one was unsure of what the parts of our hydroponic was. In the beginning, we had a lot of trouble with communication in our group because we would go off and do our own thing and we ended up doing the same things or not knowing what each other were doing. From this, we were able to fix our communication within our group and have set tasks each person had to do so that we didn't end up doing the same things before or having the same problems.
In our system, the water chemistry, as well as its measurements, was essential in order to keep our plants thriving. We needed to make sure that our pH was kept in a neutral range in order to allow the plants to absorb certain nutrients. We also needed to make certain that the TDS, the nutrients that we manually applied to the system, or the total dissolved solids, was always kept at around 1,200 ppm, or parts per million, so that the nutrients applied would cater to all of the preferred levels of TDS of our plants, due to the fact that each plant's preferred TDS or nutrient level varied, since we had a bunch of plants coexisting in the same system together.
In our cooking boot camp, we would start out with a demonstration by Chef Matt on what we were doing for the recipe that we were focusing on, and then we would go back to our own stations and we would work on it ourselves and kind of take what he taught us and apply our own skills that we had in the kitchen to make the recipe. And I think we learned a lot of problem solving, and we learned a lot of cooking skills that will benefit us in this final competition. And I think that with these cooking skills, we started out really kind of sporadic, and we started out really all over the place with our cooking, and now we're like a well-oiled machine and we work really well together.
To include that in like curriculum for students, because I think, well, for one thing, it's like the direction that our society seems to be going in, like this more reversion to natural, or reversion to just like how things were before.